Good evening. Welcome to Your Mental Health Matters, brought to you by ONV. My name is Crystal Kelly, and I will be your host for this evening. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are right back at it. We are at part 2 of Black Man and Mental Health. And so from our first podcast, we hit a lot of really great points. So I guess the direction I would like to take for this evening is, what can we do to make it better for Black men to be okay with seeking help, seeking therapy?
Well, I think taking the stigma off of it. And
Yes.
we talk about that a lot, especially in the Black community. When we think about our physical health, we do go to the doctor when we break a leg, break an arm, or have maybe diabetes or something. We do tend to go to the doctor. However, when it comes to mental health, there's such a big stigma with that. We have to encourage them that your mental health is just as good as your, or we need to protect it just as well as our physical health.
That's right.
And then also encouraging people to, we're going to talk about this later, as far as getting into the field where there are more people that look like you, and you would be more comfortable in going and sharing, your stories or your ailments.
Very true.
Totally. Yeah, I think, it's interesting. I think for a lot of Black and brown folks, that being vulnerable is not only frowned upon, but it's also, it could be dangerous, in certain situations and, environments. And so going somewhere, especially to someone that's involved in the system that's persecuted you,
Very true.
The hand that's already smacked you down, and you want to ask them for help. So I think it does turn a lot of people off to that, to the concept itself and the stigma, like you mentioned. I think the stigma of going and talking about your feelings, and we talked about that last time, how it may seem like a weakness when actually it allows you the ability to be adept at managing all those feelings. You know
That's
what I'm saying?
right.
So
We touched on that idea of boys don't cry.
Right.
So a lot of that, I think, stems from men not wanting to go seek help, because that's a form of maybe them thinking that it's crying or whining about, what's happening with you.
Yeah.
So we, and Salathiel, I want you to kind of go further with that. I know we talked a little bit about that before, but how can we change that concept with raising our boys?
Very good question.
It is. I think for me, I think a lot of things start with education. So that emotional intelligence, education about emotions, being able to label emotions and know what you're dealing with, and understanding that it is okay to have emotions. You're a human being.
That's
you're
right.
Have
You're not a robot.
Feeling, and I say a lot because, again, I see a lot of young Black men, and I tell them, I'm like, if you're a strong man, you're going to have strong emotions. You don't want to be a strong man with weak emotions. And you don't want to be a weak man with strong emotions.
Yeah, very true.
So if you got the right kit, you got to ride that out and just do the best you can with what you got. But at the same time, it's like getting adept, like I said, at dealing with those emotions. And I think it's also the environments too, because I think about like football, with sports, whereas
that's a big one.
You can argue, you can be aggressive, and it's a safe space, but that's not acceptable in other places in society. You know what I mean? And so I think it's finding that balance, and I believe like things like therapy. I always say people don't try to change until tragedy happens. Jail or hospital.
Come on.
Jail or hospital.
That's a true statement.
I want to fix something.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's like, why wait for tragedy for things to change? To do better. And I think people don't do therapy until they're hurting. And I believe that it's something we should be doing in middle school. It's something at least being introduced to these ideas.
So how do we, and this is a question for all of us, how do we encourage a single mom that's raising a young boy to kind of guide them in healthy mental wellness or coping skills for that? Because unfortunately we have a lot of single moms raising young boys, and we want them to be strong and then be able to speak up when they need help. And sometimes they don't have the tools to do that. And unfortunately, dads are not there to do what they need to do.
Right. It goes back to what Salathiel was saying. It's that educational piece. Being able to be okay with labeling, saying what emotion is what emotion, verbalizing. And then also reaching out to somebody, either your family, if you have somebody, uncle, brother, you know, your community leaders, you know, sports, you know, programs. I think just being able to reach out to certain people to help with, if you have, you know, questions or that extra support when you're raising a young boy, a young black or brown boy.
Yeah, and kind of to touch on that too, like again with the education, you know, parenting classes.
Yes.
I always say we parent how we've been parented until we figure out a better way.
Right.
You know what I mean? And every kid's different, and having some tools in your tool belt can't hurt.
Come
on.
on.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And so following some kind of, you know, consistent approach to therapy or to parenting, I think can help a lot of people too, you know. And again, I think it's no one wants to be told how to parent. You know, and we live in a very individualistic society.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's hard to really engage all these people to help me because I feel like I should be able to do it on my own. You know, that whole pull yourself up by your bootstraps.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
But some folks don't have bootstraps.
That's
they
true.
ain't got boots.
Come
you
on.
know what I'm saying?
Come
so
on.
again, finding the support, I know I've experienced that it is a skill to ask for help.
Right.
You know, and to seek that education out. So
And we should encourage them more, especially the younger parents,
Right.
because I see that a lot more than a couple decades ago, that the younger parents, unfortunately, are too young to know what is the right way. And we just need to be there to encourage them, have open arms.
Come on.
And it's not saying that you're wrong in doing this. However, we're trying to guide you, be mentors to them in raising the young ones. So
That's right.
yeah.
And then also looking at therapy differently. Like you said, Salathiel, don't look at it as, okay, I have a problem, I need to go get fixed. You know what I'm saying? It's more than that.
You know, we talked about that, having a different word. We haven't come up with that term
No,
yet.
yeah.
Because therapy, the word itself has a big stigma to it.
It does.
So we have to work on that, get another term for that.
You know, again, even philosophically speaking, you know,
Yes.
it's like with the whole concept of confidentiality, you know, and it's like you can create this amazing bond with the person, you know, help them through all kind of crazy, terrible stuff, but you see them in person, you're supposed to pretend like you
Right.
don't know.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And I feel like that feels so disingenuous, you know, and is it a secret that people have issues
Come
that they
on.
need to deal
We
with?
all
you
go
know what
through
I'm saying?
stuff. That's
Why
right.
would that be a secret?
That's
But you know,
right.
it's something that we have to do is keep people's privacy. And I get it. Again, nobody wants to be judged at their worst moment. But at the same time, I think it's, you know, maybe eliminating some of those basic concepts we have about therapy. You know, and maybe we should have a different term for it.
We should have a different term, so we have to work on that.
Yeah.
Please, yes.
Like I said, I don't like to use the term mental illness. For me, it's mental health. You know, you should be seeking mental health, wellness, balance, well-being.
The positive side of it. And then talking about destructive behaviors, we tapped on that a little bit. And unfortunately, we tend to go to the drug and alcohol thinking that that is the cure or would be a cure. And unfortunately, it brings more problems because once you come off of that high or that stupor, you still have that same problem. So I would say we need to start teaching the kids younger, not waiting until they're in high school, middle school, teaching them the impact of drinking and drugging and even smoking. Yes, some of that stuff is legal. However, it's not beneficial to your body system. So
I feel like there's some positive addictions. You know, you could be addicted to a healthy diet or exercise.
Right.
I also feel like a lot underlying most addictions is, you know, mental health issues. You know, I'm not a substance abuse counselor by any means, but you know, I find a lot of the people that struggle with that and they're not taking their medication, so they're going to seek to self-medicate. And there's lots of ways to kind of escape from life's problems these days. You know,
that's true.
Video games, you know,
man, that's a whole world right there.
Gosh.
That's a whole
you know,
world.
YouTube, Instagram, you know. I had a kid tell me one time he went to the bathroom and he sat down on the toilet and was scrolling through Instagram for 3 hours.
Oh my gosh!
Didn't use the bathroom or anything.
Oh, wow.
Didn't notice until his legs went numb. He got the pins and needles
Right?
in his feet. Like, what's wrong with my legs? Like,
Was on that phone.
Yeah.
Sheesh.
Yeah, for 3 hours. I'm like, can you imagine what you could have done with that time?
Come on, that's
you know?
right. That's right.
So and I think it may be even more difficult. I don't want to say it is, but for young folks these days, because they're growing up with it. I didn't grow up with social media.
Same here.
So having to care about somebody that live 300 miles away and what they think about what I do, it's never entered my mind.
Right.
Come on. I've worked with high school kids that were like, at my school, if you don't have 300 followers on Instagram, you're nobody. And I'm like,
that comes with that self-esteem.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it makes me shudder.
Like, why?
Right.
Yeah.
And I think about that too. Maybe I'm just silly, but I think about if you had 300 people following your 15-year-old son around everywhere he went.
That's something.
Watching everything he does.
Everything.
That's weird, man.
That's weird.
So sorry, but nothing against nobody in their social media. Do your
Right,
thing.
right.
But I think there's excess. Just like like you said, some of these things are legal, sure, but I think that when you get to that point where it's starting to impact your functioning. I got kids failing all their classes at school, but punching holes in the wall over video games.
They take it to a whole nother level.
Right.
And crippled with anxiety, can't even enter the school building. And so there's a whole lot going on, sure. But again, how do you start that conversation of getting them into therapy and getting them actually wanting to help? Because, I often say the kids' behavior is not a problem for them. It's a problem for the adults around
For
them.
the adults. And then that comes
True
with
statement,
that moderation and being mindful of what your kids are doing, what they're watching, how long they're watching it. I mean, it's okay in moderation.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's about connection, not control, because you can't really control them. You know what I mean? But if you connect with them, they understand why you feel the way you do about certain things.
Right.
And, you have that, they'll come to you. But, if you just try to control them and
talking at them.
Right. Beat them down every time they do something, they're just going to avoid
it doesn't work.
And get away with what they can while they can.
Bingo.
Again, that's another show, right? Parenting.
Yes, that's a whole other show.
Whole other show.
But when it comes to just giving people tools, especially, again, if we're focusing on boys, young boys, it has to start when they're young. I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
Giving them tools, great outlets to realize, like, okay, there's other ways to manage my emotions. And it's okay to acknowledge how I'm feeling.
Yeah.
Right. So with that, a thought that came to me was missing dads in the boys' lives.
That's a good one, yeah.
Again, this is all for all of us to kind of put input on it. What is the impact on having a young person, young boy, and the dad is not there, and there is definitely a void, but how do we address the co-parenting to help that child move through the middle school years, the high school years in a healthy way?
Yeah, it has to start with the parents.
Yeah.
It really does, especially if you're trying to co-parent. Like, it has to be
a team approach.
Team.
It is.
Leave the feelings out of it.
And again, that goes back to having those parenting classes early on. Because even if you do divorce, that you're still a family. And,
that's true.
It's hard to put a blanket statement on it, but a lot of kids struggle, especially again when they're missing that parent completely. But then again, what's worse? If the dad's around, but him and mom are constantly fighting and putting the kid in between them. Always weaponizing their children against each other.
I hate that. Right.
And it's like, you don't realize the Frankenstein you building, because when they're 17 and don't listen to you or him, what I mean? You got a problem.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
So being okay with just helping kids to understand that, it's not their fault. If you're missing their parent or their parent is not in their lives, really coming from a therapeutic approach of, making sure that they're not putting the blame on themselves. That they can be more. You know what I'm saying? Like, even though their parent isn't there, they can still live a fulfilling life.
Right. But a lot of times we see that as an excuse to do wrong. Yeah. And that's unfortunate. And I think the adults in the kids' lives, whether aunts, uncles, mentors, need to reinforce that. You can use that as a crutch, or you can use it as a stepping stone to better your life.
Motivator.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I think
because there are plenty of kids that come from single parent homes that excel in life.
Man,
they use
come
that as a
on.
reason.
That's
to,
right.
lift their
That's the
family
kicker.
up, and so I do see that. For me, it goes back to, I think, a lot of we got to teach kids more about adversity and resilience.
Yes.
Being able to develop through that. I think we have this belief in our culture. Again, we live in this individualistic Western kind of society, and I think there's this belief that mistakes are something that you got to avoid, but mistakes are on the path to learning.
Thank you. That's right. That's how we grow.
Yeah, I talk about it a lot. My first foray into college, I failed miserably. I flunked out, lost scholarships and all that, But then I went back and spent 10 years in college and got 3 degrees. So it's like, did I fail?
Come on.
Or did I really learn what it took to put effort into something, no matter how smart you are?
That's right. That's
to
right.
have the skills to be a student, to study, to to show up to class, to take good notes, things like that. And again, I think just like with managing emotions, there's a skill to that. But if you don't know there's any other emotion besides anger,
man,
how do you get there?
Come on.
So yeah.
And that teaching starts early.
It starts early.
Yeah, yeah. And we have to again incorporate the physical health, to get the balance of the mental health, the nutrition, the rest that they need on a
body,
regular
mind, and
basis.
spirit, man.
Yes, it's all connected. It's all connected.
Yep. I agree.
This is good.
Yeah.
So for anybody who's tuning in right now, we are focusing on our young people, Black men, Black boys, and mental health, knowing that it's so important to be able to recognize when you need help. So, yes, great question. When do a person recognize or should recognize when they should seek mental health? That's a good question.
So I would say, again, they're not going to know.
Right.
Themselves. It's the people around them, the family members, the friends. If they're not functioning in their daily lives as they normally would, if they're not communicating as they normally would, then that person that's closest to them needs to say, hey, I think it's time that we go talk to someone for your well-being.
Right.
Well, so, I think it's also, again, the people check in with their doctors and pediatricians, and they do screenings, mental health screenings. But I wonder, is there a follow-up?
Good question.
Yeah.
To make sure that they're actually engaging in what the doctor recommends, because most people only see their doctor for their checkup or when they get sick.
Right.
So
that's it. Very true.
And that comes to encouraging again.
Yeah.
Into the profession. So we definitely have to keep pushing that and encouraging especially Black males to consider those health professions, those mental health professions, to encourage the other quote unquote clients to come at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So even though a person may not want to start off with seeing a therapist, what other outlets can we suggest to say, okay, if you don't want to go see this therapist, go try this activity or try this particular situation over here that could make your life a little bit easier and better?
Yeah, that's great. And I feel like there's lots of supports out there for people, but if they don't know about it, they won't seek them. Again, it's you could try, sports and case management and martial arts and talking to a school counselor, getting involved in clubs. Again, I think that's a problem with a lot of communities, not having more things for young people to get involved in.
Yes, that's a real thing. That's right.
So
that's right.
But even something as small as learning about meditation, yoga, things like that to help balance yourself out. You can look up a YouTube video on that.
Much. There's so much out there that you can learn.
My go-to is always a walk.
Yeah.
It's
great
out
outlet.
In fresh air. Yeah. Out in fresh air and making that a part of your daily routine. I think that benefits your mental health. Yeah.
So exercise, eating well, making sure you're hydrated,
sleeping.
Yes. Or even finding what your passions are.
I agree with that too.
You know?
Totally.
Yeah. Diving into them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I feel like that can be a spiritual pursuit too. Art and music and poetry and writing and finding the things you're passionate about and chasing that. I think can really help people, get some clarity and some perspective. Because in that, it's going to be adversity too. You're going to have to struggle so you can do better. Yeah. Well, and I also think too, for a lot of people, they look at exercise as just going to the gym, but I mean, you're right. Like with walking, it's something I think is being more active during the day. Period.
Yes.
Right. Being active regularly, and because most of your day is going to be outside of the gym anyway.
That's true. That's very true.
And diet and sleep are huge. A lot of the people I work with struggle with sleep. Eat junk. And it's. I get it. Again, it's a lot of people. We do what we know.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, but when the doctor's like, "Hey, yeah, you're pre-diabetic. You're gonna have to make some changes."
Come on.
Then we want to start changing diet. So I think it's making those lifestyle changes early on,
That's
which
huge.
Again goes back to education about nutrition. And figuring out what you need for your body. So yeah.
That makes sense. Makes sense. Yeah. So also, here's another thing I want to bring up when it comes to our black men. In our community, we noticed that, especially since COVID, there's so much has been brought up with racism. We always known that it's been there, but now that it's out there, like for the world to see, like the cover has been pulled off. And so that impacts not only just us, but black men, especially if we have sons and we have to give them that talk if they're driving, what to do if you get stopped by a police officer. So that's something that is traumatizing.
Yes. And again, it comes from the education early on, because you don't want to wait until they're middle school, because a lot of times their mind is framed on what their world is. And if they haven't seen it up close or experienced it personally, then they're likely not going to believe that it's out there.
Right.
Because a lot of it is subtle now.
Very subtle.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I believe in teaching them as early as they're ready to learn and hear you. Just teaching them about who they are, loving themselves.
Come on.
And then being real about it, what's happening in the world.
Yeah.
Show them the news clips that's happening. Excuse me. And keep talking about it, because it's, unfortunately, right now, it's not gone away.
Yeah. It's here.
And you don't want it to be a surprise to them.
Right.
And be blind to it. So I believe in teaching them early on as possible of who they are, loving themselves, and what to expect from the world. Know that everybody is hateful and out to get you, but you have to have that in your mind and be precautious of that, unfortunately. Also having the real talks with them. Yeah. And the girls too.
Come on.
Yeah.
Be real.
Yeah, that's the question. How young is too young,
Well, they're learning everything at 2 on
That's
those
true.
devices.
That's true.
So, and I believe if we build confidence in them, that self-love, that self-esteem,
that goes a long way.
Yeah, it would be better for them.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that they won't experience things.
Right.
But it would be better for them and how they react to it. Yeah. So.
I feel like it's having that strong sense of self and being able to take your ego out of the problem, because that person that is being offensive, again, they're not telling me anything about me, they're telling me about who they are.
Thank you.
Right.
How they were
Thank
raised,
you. True statement.
how they learned,
Yeah.
And that's got nothing to do with me,
Nothing.
And so again, I get it in the sense of them being offensive, being disrespectful, but I think that expecting it not to happen has always been my mistake.
Gotcha.
So when it does happen, I get upset, So now I kind of expect people, like that, and it's, for me, I don't need the acceptance of everyone.
Come on. Come on.
Right.
And I think, again, it's part of having a strong sense of self and having a good, a sense of identity, and
self-love, and then not having a hothead.
Yeah.
When it comes to that, down to a situation like that.
That's right.
Hopefully they will be more likely to stay calm as much as they can without putting fuel to the fire
Come
already.
on. That's right.
And that goes back to basic social skills training. You know what I mean? Learning how to handle conflict, handle teasing from non-peers, how to handle bullying.
Come on.
That stuff, again, they should be teaching more in school. Not to rag on the schools.
Right.
But, more social, emotional development and growth, and
Yeah.
And just affirmation, words that young people need to hear, especially our
Build them
boys. Yeah. It's okay to, you have your dad or uncle or brother. I love you.
Yeah.
And that's
powerful.
Yeah, but they don't think so. A lot of times they don't think so. I won't say everybody.
Right.
But a lot of times they view that as a weakness or a softie, and that's unfortunate. Because it's okay to hear that.
Yeah.
And it's okay to feel that.
Come on now.
Yeah.
So being able to say, I appreciate you. Mm-hmm. I love you. I care about you. I care for your well-being.
Definitely, yeah. I do that with all my kids, boys
Come
and girls.
on.
Yeah.
I'm hugging them, squeezing them, and you know what I'm saying? You better do it while you can.
Yes,
You know what I mean?
that's right.
I got one about to be 17, and he going to be gone soon and doing his thing. So it's like I call them ninja hugs. I sneak up on this dude. I come around the corner and I'm getting my squeezes. Man,
I know that's right.
For real.
Yeah.
So, and again, I think it shows because he has such a strong sense of self. You know what I mean? And he's able to function and succeed, be successful. So, yeah.
I love that.
That's all right.
It starts with words.
Yeah.
It's okay, if you have your partner, if you have your husband, or brother or uncle, it's okay to use those words of affirmation.
I agree. Yeah. And I think it's also, you're role modeling for them.
That's big.
And love is behavior. It's not just me saying it; it's what I do.
Come
it's
on,
me showing
it's
it.
action.
Yeah,
the kids are watching.
And it's
That's
about me
right.
doing better myself too. Again, it's about me getting myself into therapy.
Come on.
You know what I mean? Because it's for them.
I
can't take care of nobody else if I'm falling
apart.
apart. You
That's
feel me?
right. Come on.
Yeah. So again, that's part of it too, and showing them. I like to process my emotions with my kids, so they see, like, man, I'm feeling really frustrated right now, but you know what? I'm gonna go take a break, take some deep breaths. I'll come back and do it later.
Come on.
And they see that and they're like, wow, he doesn't have to blow up and punch a hole in the wall. You know what I'm saying? Because something didn't go the way he wanted it to. And I think that's good for them to see. Again, you're role modeling for them. How to manage those things. So yeah.
Man, just imagine if we have so many people like that, in our community, role modeling that of where our young people can be.
Yeah. Again, that's why I go back to the stigma about mental health.
Yes.
It's silly to me because I go back to if you ran a society, wouldn't you want everybody mentally well? Mentally healthy?
Yes.
Every doctor, every cop,
Please.
every lawyer, judge, teacher.
Right.
You don't want no teacher flipping out bipolar, schizophrenic with a pistol in the classroom. I mean,
come on.
Who's doing that?
Well,
So it just makes sense. People should seek mental health.
Please.
Right.
Yes. Yes.
Do it proactively.
Yeah. So again, tonight's topic is Black men, Black boys, brown, seeking mental health. And so our thing when it comes to therapy is do it for your family, do it for your kids, but most importantly, do it for you.
Right.
To be a better you so you can be a better version for your family, your kids, your neighborhood, your community. So again, we are licensed mental health providers on the set here, and we want you guys to know that you can seek out us. We're here in the community. Hopefully you guys can see our email of how to contact us. We are Your Mental Health Matters. And so we are here every first and third Friday of each month, and the month of July will be another brand new topic. So again, thank you for joining us this evening. We appreciate. Thank you. And like we always say, protect your mind.
All right.